Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart, a podcast where we look for the moments of hope in the midst of adversity. I'm MommaFoxFire, and today we're talking about something that sits at the intersection of two things most people don't know how to discuss, and that is religion and also mental health. Many of us grew up with some version of faith. Maybe it was Catholic Mass every Sunday. Maybe it was your grandmother's quiet prayers before bed. Maybe you rejected it entirely. But whether you engaged with it or ran from it, that relationship to faith or the lack of it shapes how we move through the world, especially when things get hard. And mental health, that's the thing we're still learning how to talk about openly. We've made progress. We've got better language now. We understand trauma differently than we used to. We're not as quick to shame people for struggling. But we're also still figuring out what actually heals us. Is it medication, therapy, community, spirituality? The answer probably isn't just one thing, but we're not always comfortable sitting with that kind of complexity. What happens when those two worlds collide is interesting, because here's what I've noticed. A lot of people feel caught between them. They go to therapy and get diagnosed with something, and they wonder if that's what's really wrong. They pray and feel better for a while, and then the old feelings come back. They grow up in a religion that doesn't feel safe anymore, but they're not sure how to have faith without it. Or they don't have any faith at all, and they're wondering if that's part of what's missing. My guest today is Richard Tierney. He is a trauma recovery specialist who works outside the traditional mental health system. He teaches people a method that combines visualization, spiritual practice, and what he calls a healing event. His core idea is that what we call mental disorders aren't actually illnesses that need to be managed forever. They're wounds in the soul, he says, caused by past trauma, and they can actually be healed. Now, I'm going to be real clear about something. Richard's work is not for everyone. His approach is heavily spiritual and faith-based, but here's why I wanted to have him on the show. Whether you agree with everything he says or not, he's asking questions that matter. He's asking whether we've been treating the symptoms instead of the cause. He's asking what it means to separate who you are today from what happened to your younger self. He's asking what role spirituality plays in healing outside of organized religion. We get into his personal story, how he moved from being stuck in victimhood for decades to building a life on his own terms. We talk about the tension between telling your story and being defined by it. We discuss what it looks like to have a relationship with God that doesn't require church. And we dig into whether his approach complements or replaces traditional therapy. You might hear things you don't agree with. That's okay. The goal here isn't to convert you to any particular belief system. It's to crack open the conversation about what actually heals us when we're broken, and whether the answers might be bigger than any single framework. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Richard Tierney. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Mental Health Monday here on Even Tacos Fall Apart. I am so glad you are here. I am back from vacation, and I'm really excited to dive back into these conversations here. If you are here for the first time, you don't know what's going on, Mental Health Monday is a time where we get together and we talk about all things mental health. So if you will have any questions related to mental health, especially related to religion or God and mental health, feel free to pop those into the chat. I'm going to open up a question queue. Whether you are here on Twitch or YouTube, just pop your question into the chat and we'll make sure to get it addressed while we're here. But I am joined today by Richard Tierney, who teaches people how to heal from mental health struggles by going beyond the diagnosis and addressing what Richard calls the cause, the original trauma, often held by a younger version of ourselves. Richard believes healing requires more than symptom management. Instead, the approach centers around a spiritual solution rooted in Christ, including a 12-step program modeled after AA with permission focused on trauma recovery. Richard's work challenges the idea that medication or talk therapy alone is enough, and instead, Richard guides people through a healing process that begins with releasing the weight of past trauma in a safe, non-intrusive way and continues with a step-by-step spiritual journey. As always, I'll be coming to this discussion with curiosity and respect, and I ask that you guys do the same, especially as we talk about things like faith and mental health and trauma and how those pieces fit or sometimes don't fit into people's healing journeys. And if y'all are interested in connecting with Richard, I have several links for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and post those so that you can click through and find a way to connect over here on Facebook, LinkedIn, or even go buy a couple of books that Richard has written. So Richard, thank you so much for joining here today. And I'm really excited for this conversation. I think it's going to be great.
Thank you very much for having me, MommaFoxFire. I have to get used to these tags. Really great to be here. I love your presentation. Really very kind words that you shared. I really appreciate it. I love your background. I'm looking at your paintings. I know your audience can't see it, but I'm loving all the colors. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can absolutely see it. This is live. This is video. This is on Twitch and YouTube at the same time. So they get to see everything that you can see, fortunately. Before we dive in, we do already have a question in the question queue. Bite Mark would like to know, what is your favorite poem?
Oh, wow. I'm glad you warned me about this. I've only ever had one favorite poem, and that was the I wandered lonely as a cloud. I learned it in school when I was in junior school. It was the prayer the poem we were taught that most of our exams were on this one prayer. And as I go through life with mental illness and mental health, I think this really sums up where we can be. At sometimes feel completely distant from the world, looking out beyond and using our imagination to escape reality. And that idea of wandering lonely as a cloud in the sky, or as a daffodil, being a sole daffodil, and then join the whole flock and the whole harvest of daffodils. I think all that sums up for me. I don't know how that one poem stayed with me from childhood to resonate so deeply with me in the present.
It's neat, though, how things can come with, just something from a childhood memory and stick with you for so long. And you're going, as an adult now, I remember that one poem. It's really cool just to kind of go through that.
It's from school. We kind of think things about school, we think they're not important. And like that's in my schooling, and I want to get away from my school as far as possible. And suddenly I find a poem that I learned in school that, again, I didn't choose to learn it. We were browbeaten into learn this off by heart for exams, whatever. And I always thought it was part of the curriculum and something that you'd put in the past and leave it go. But today it's so pertinent in my life. There's times when my nature is to be a victim. And I can go to depression and despair in a split second. It doesn't take very long to go to depression or despair. I can go there so fast. Like, it's just people who know this understand this. It can take me hours to be happy, joyous, and free, but I can go to depression and despair in a split second. That's just the nature of the dis-ease that we have within ourselves. And that idea of being as lonely as a cloud or a single daffodil, it just comes into my life so much. I'm kind of going, did God plan for me to learn that poem when I was like 12 years of age, that at the age of 64, it would make such a huge impact upon my life? Again, these are things that just blow me away. And these things can have these full circle and come back into my life.
Yeah. I just finished reading a book. It's a fiction book, but it's called The Lost Bookshop. And it talks about something that was lost in someone's childhood, and then they kept remembering it. And it was like they could remember this one thing word for word, crystal clear in their life and all the impacts that it had. And it's kind of interwoven in this greater story, but it's just really neat. It's just a really cool thing. Bite Mark says, it's not the first time I've come with a warning, and it won't be the last. That is true. That is very true, but I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you already asking a question. I encourage everyone, if you have any questions, feel free to pop those in and we'll talk about them. But Richard, I would love to know, can you share a little bit about your background and what led you to what you do now?
Okay. I'm conscious of triggering people, and I'm no desire to trigger anybody. So we've all had our trauma. I'd like to say that I believe every one of us on this earth at birth experienced a trauma event that isn't recognized by the powers that be. So I like to think that God created us in his image, and he gave us fight, flight, and freeze as our responses to danger. And we got those in the womb. So when you're in the womb and you're about to come into life, because we're coming out of the safe place into the unknown, that's their first event of practicing fight, flight, or freeze. So a child comes out of the womb and it's in a state of freeze. So it comes out and it's comatose. The midwife holds up by the ankle, slaps in the bum for reaction. And in that moment, that child, it gets the message. It can never just freeze again. That the first time it tried to freeze, it was taken from it. So it spends its life in a state of stuck in a state of fight or flight for its lifetime. We meet so many kids who are in a state of fight or flight. Fight and flight aren't their go-to responses, but they've been told that they can't freeze. And so they're stuck
Mm.
between, they don't know which to take, fight or flight. Again, if you're a child coming out of the womb and you want to run away, and you're trying to run away, and then the midwife wraps you up in a blanket and puts you into a cot. Again, you're told fight isn't safe or flight isn't safe. And so you go through life if flight's taken from you, you go through a response of fight or freeze, which aren't your natural responses. If when you came out of the room, you were trying to fight, you're wrapped in a blanket, you're told fight isn't safe, and then you become a passive victim where you're running away or freezing. But they're not your natural responses. So you're not in your comfortable zone because your comfortable zone is to fight. And then the child comes out of the womb, happy, joyous, and free. All of its responses are intact. It's handed to the mother because it's a happy, joyful child. The mother holds it to its womb, to its bosom, and their hearts connect, and it's all fine. That child goes on Martin Luther King or Jimmy Carter or some famous person we see up there who's got all their stuff together. They're strong and independent. So I think that's what we have in life. So I think 3/4 of the world's population suffer trauma before they're born, or
Mm.
before they come into the world. That they're robbed of their fight, flight, or freeze, and that has effect on them growing up. So that's the start of it. Okay, and for me, I believe that my response was to fight, and it was taken from me. So I came in to life in a state of fight or flees, and I became a victim that run away or hide anytime anything would happen. I
Mm.
knew instinctively I wanted to fight it, but because fight had been taken from me, I would revert to two uncomfortable responses of fight or flight or freeze. So I never felt comfortable even doing those actions. And that really upset my mental state, my emotional state. And then that happens for all of us. Now, again, I don't want to be blaming midwives or the doctors saying that it just happened that this is what happened. But I think it's up to us today to teach children, if they have a fear of freezing, how to freeze. If they have a fear of fighting, how to fight. Rather than medicating them, we need to teach children that it's okay to. So my suggestion, if I have a client who comes into me who's fearful, who's stuck in a state of fight or flight, I teach them to freeze. I have
Mm.
them curl up in a ball and a beanbag in the corner, and they can basically lay there in the corner and be in a safe place of just not doing anything and just freezing and falling asleep or something and just freezing. And then half an hour later, come out of the group and we talk about what that felt like. And they learn it's okay to freeze again. And
Mm.
once they embrace their freezing, they're fine. Once they embrace their fight, the one that the response that was taken from them, once that's embraced fully, they can manage anything.
Mm.
You know, they're back to being a whole person. So that's where I came from. That behind the behind my experience, and then as a child at the age of 12, I suffered an abuse.
Mm.
I don't want to trigger anybody. I thought it was my fault. I thought I must have attracted the person to me. I must have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. All those things that a 12-year-old child would think. I blame myself. So it filled me with such shame and self-loathing that it wasn't I didn't want to live, or it wasn't I didn't want to die. I didn't want to live.
Mm.
And being a victim, I'd never take my own life. I was afraid of the repercussions. And so I lived my life where I didn't even live it. I endured life where I pretended I was okay when I wasn't.
Mm.
And all that stuff that children do, self-harming and really pushing people away, all that kind of stuff. That's where I was from the age of 12 until be 19. And then I ended up getting into addictions. My best friend then was computer machines, playing poker machines, because it wasn't involving other human beings. I could sit with a machine and flashing lights, and I could feel myself, you know, whatever. I could feel empowered by myself playing on a machine, have power or something. But I wasn't comfortable around anybody,
Mm.
family, friends, whatever. And that's where I came from. That kind of sense of brokenness and feeling that I don't deserve life and something wrong with me and God doesn't love me and how could this happen to me, and all that anger and rage, and my family are normal and healthy and I'm the one why with me, and all the kind of crazy stuff you can suffer in childhood. And if
Mhm.
you haven't got caring guardians or parents to help you out of it, just go deeper and deeper.
Yeah, and so you kinda took that experience and you were like, "I could help other people who have been through, some similar trauma or something like that?"
Well, I wish say yes, but no. I stayed that way for God, for maybe 40 years.
Mm.
I remained a victim, blaming my past. I wouldn't move forward. So I was growing physically as an adult, but mentally and emotionally, I was still a trapped 12-year-old child in an adult body.
Mm.
So I was great around children, and hopeless around adults. And it was hilarious. People say, God, you're fantastic with kids. Oh, you're great. The kids love you. And the thing was, I was comfortable with kids.
Mm.
I was comfortable playing with kids, but I wasn't comfortable having an adult conversation with adults. So I was 27 years of age, and then 35 years of age, and then 44 years of age. And I was fantastic with kids. People say, you should be a teacher. You should work with children. You're fantastic with kids. And the truth was, I was comfortable being meeting with kids because I was a child trapped in an adult body.
Mm.
And that happened for many of us, you know. But at some stage, I had to find a way of breaking that, becoming an adult in an adult body. That
Yeah.
was really my starting journey, was finding. So I joined groups like CODA to learn about boundaries and healthy boundaries and respecting people's boundaries and that kind of stuff. And other groups to teach me how to be an adult. There was a big learning curve for me to learn that.
Like, so you eventually did kind of break out of that state and everything. What made you start the work that you do now? What made you
Oh,
start, Trauma Recovery Anonymous and
so,
that kind of work?
so I jump ahead. So, of course, because of my journey, I ended up becoming alcoholic and I becoming compulsive gambler. I got introduced to a 12-step program for both. And it's blown away that a 12-step program could empower anybody to self-realization. I mean, it's phenomenal. Probably the greatest gift the world got in the 20th century was 21st century was the 12-step program.
Mm.
It's a wonderful tool. And then when I got rid of my trauma, when I had this sponsor, they call him a sponsor, a mentor in AA. And he said to me one day, isn't it time you let go of the past? Isn't it time you stop blaming the past for who you are and get into the present? And I was furious at him. How can he deny me my victimhood? How can he say these things? But I realized it was the first man in probably a long time I'd actually been allowed to get close and have an intimate relationship with, speaking. And I didn't want to throw that away. So I listened to his words and I tried to find out what was wrong. And I realized the past wasn't mine to deal with. So I'm a 64-year-old man today. This happened 10 years ago, but if I'm a 64-year-old man today, I can't be a 12-year-old child 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened to a 12-year-old child happened to a 12-year-old child. It didn't happen to the 64-year-old man. So I realized I carry the memory of what happened to that 12-year-old child. And I carry sympathy pains for what he went through. But he went through it. I didn't go through it. I have my life today, and here I am on your podcast, and I've got plans with my family today. But I have nothing to do with it. Something happened 50 years ago. And if I went back in 50 years' time, if I could travel back in 50 years, I know if I stepped into that space, I'd kill your man. He wouldn't get anywhere near
Mm.
12-year-old version of me. So it didn't happen to me. And that was the wonderful experience of release, that if it didn't happen to me, it was none of my business. I had to give those sympathy pains back to my younger self. And from that I created a healing event. Over here in Thailand, you do any job, you can get as English teacher for a while with no qualifications, but if you speak English, you become an English teacher. And from then, there was a treatment center here called the Cabin, the biggest addiction center in all of Asia, really big. And I applied there for a job, and they gave me the opportunity to become a member of the support staff. And it was really a wonderful experience working with addicts and people who were troubled mentally, emotionally, whatever, and help them, whatever. And it was really cool working with them. And then the clinical director was a guy by the name of, most powerful character ever. He died, unfortunately, but
Mm.
he gave me an opportunity to move from support into holistic. And I got to work with clients one-on-one. So this idea I had of teaching clients to let go of the past, I used it on the clients that I got to work with over about a 4-year period. And I dealt with about 100 clients, and I got them to break free of their past. It was a wonderful experience, really cool. And then with COVID, I left that. And I wanted to find a way of creating a 12-step program to go with the healing event. So I knew the 12-step program, as they were structured, but they weren't suitable for trauma, because in regular 12-step programs, your first line of defense is abstaining from the first drink, the first drug, the first behavior. But with trauma recovery anonymous, we've given the past back to our younger. Details are gone. There's no abstaining involved because now it's gone. Now you want to learn how to just live free of the mental diagnosis of the trauma. So we had to create a different 12-step program. And that took basically all the years of COVID to create that program. But finally it got created. And about a year ago, I launched it. So now the whole program of the healing event, which takes about 2 hours, and the 12-step program takes about an hour. It's a 3-hour event. You can break free completely of any mental disorder caused by any past trauma memory.
Wow. That's really impressive. And it's great that you've been able to kind of work through all of that. It sounds like it was a very kind of organic, like you just went from one thing to the next, to the see the need and then create something to fulfill that need. That's wonderful. You mentioned you have plans with your family later and you're doing this and you've got this work. How do you balance your work and hobbies and taking care of your own well-being? How do you balance those?
There's a spiritual advisor I had about 4 or 5 years ago, and he told me that God gave us 24 hours. He gave us 3 8-hour segments. Okay, you have 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of play, and 8 hours of work, and they should never cross over. Now, I know sometimes the boss might ask you to work overtime, but you get that in advance, and you tell him you'll work overtime if he gives you double time back, plus he pays you for a regular hour. So he's asking you to work. So normally they say it's time or time and a half. You say, no, I will work for you if you want me to work for you. But you have to give me double time as free time. And then I want you to pay me the regular hour work. And if you hold that boundary, every boss will say to you, yes, I meet those requirements. Don't think because they say you have to work time and a half that you have to work time and a half. You say, I have no problem giving you my time, but my time is valuable. It's valuable to my family and my friends. So I will work overtime for you. But if I'm working in 1 hour tonight, I'm taking 2 hours during the week, and then you're going to pay me for that hour I worked. That doesn't cost your boss anything to meet these requirements if he can get you work. He wants Mama Foxfire working. Doesn't want anyone else. He wants you to do a specific job. And to get you, he works on your terms. So don't be afraid to say to your boss, I will work overtime, but I want double time back for free time for my family and my hobbies and crafts. And I want you to pay me the regular hourly rate for working.
Yeah.
Again, if they can do this, don't think they can't do it. So what you do is you have your 8 hours of work, and that's you're committed to. And say if you have to do a few extra hours, you're getting double time back to make up for it. Okay? So that's first thing. Secondly, I created a prayer practice, which I love, and I'm going to share it with you now if I can. It's for the 8 hours. So tonight, if you're not a member of a church, a denomination, or a man-made religion, that's okay. Jesus didn't preach to the converted. He went looking for the downtrodden and the brokenhearted and the lost and lonely and the mentally ill, emotionally. So if you are not a member of a church, you can have God in your life without ever going near a church. The Bible says that he wants you to go into your bedroom, lock the door, close the curtains, turn off the lights, climb into your wardrobe, and in secret, have a conversation with him. Don't go near any church. Don't have to join of any kind. That's something first you need to know. So I tell that to all my clients. And for this practice, for the first night, you need to get down on your knees. It's a sign of submission to God that you're going to let him take your pain from. So with a pen and paper, write out every person, place, and thing that irritates you, frustrates you, annoys you, triggers you. On a piece of paper, write them all down. Okay, me talking about God is really irritating you. Put my name down. MommaFoxFire had me on a show. Put her name down. Put God's name down. Then put down your parents, your siblings, your aunts, your uncles, your abusers, your tormentors, your bullies, your teasers, and then your feelings and emotions. Hate the feeling of anxiety or depression. Put it all down on the sheet of paper. When you get your sheet of paper ready, get down on your knees and hold your hands up about ear height, okay? And then you allow my words to become your words, okay? So first of all, breathe into your nose only for the rest of your. When we breathe into our mouths, we aggravate anxiety and panic in our chests and stress in our shoulders. When you breathe into your nose, the breath bypasses these areas, and you can stop yourself from having panic attacks just by breathing into your nose. Just in this moment, breathe into your nose and allow my words to be your words. So here are the words, okay? Lord God, I've carried this cross since the day I was born. And like your son, Jesus, I have fought more than once. On this cross, as all of my depression, despair, and fears of the past, and all of the anxiety, fear, and panic of the unknown future, and this list. And then you read out your list. Richard tells me if I give this to you now, you'll take it off for 8 hours peaceful sleep. And so I freely and unconditionally and willingly give you all of this past, all of the future, and all of this list to take from me just for these 8 hours. I can take it back in the morning, but just for now, I'm giving it to you so you can give me 8 hours peaceful. Thank you very much. That's your prayer. You go into your bathroom. If you have a lighter, that's very, very helpful. Go into your bathroom, tear up your list. And if you have a lighter, burn the list as a burnt offering. Then drop it in the toilet and flush it away. Psychologically, when you can release something from your environment, it's gone. Then go back into your bedroom, climb into your bed, place your head in the pillow, close your eyes, put a gentle smile on your face, and suddenly you'll wake up 8 hours later with no nightmares, no flashbacks, no triggers. It's mind-blowing how easy it is. You'll wake up the next morning free of all your past. And then you'll find you've got all the stuff back. you'll be thinking about it again today. So then during your day, realize, well, if God gives me 8 hours at nighttime, I'll ask him for 10 minutes here while I walk to work. And I'll ask him for 20 minutes while I'm on the commute, or 40 minutes in the bus, or 40 minutes in the train, or I have a appointment with my boss this morning. I'll ask him to take all my stuff from me for 40 minutes while I'm in my interview with my boss, but he's given out to me, so I won't react and lose my job. But I'm going on a date. Okay, I need 2 hours. God, take it all from 2 hours. Be normal. And you learn to ask him to take it from you for these small periods of time, and he will. I can have God without being involved in any church. I don't tell anyone I'm doing this. I'm keeping this up. But I can have 8 hours sleep at night, then I can have during my day, my work day, and during my social day. So that's for the 8 hours at night. Again, for the 8 hours in your work, you give 100% commitment to your work. Even if you hate your job, you give 100% commitment in that job. And you can apply for jobs elsewhere. You can go to libraries and you can go online courses and to train yourself up. You can go to your boss and say, I'm not enjoying my work. I really feel stuck. Is there any training you can give me that will improve me or improve my environment, or is there a different department you can transfer me to? Because I'm not being of benefit to you, and your job isn't the passion it should be for me. And your boss will be very happy to hear this and help you to be the best you can be for him. He's paying you to do the job. He wants you to do that job. He shows you. So don't be afraid to ask your boss for extra training or for help in maybe your mentor or something to help you. They'll do that in a flash. That's your work. Now, your 8 hours of play, again, this spiritual advisor told me you should have 7 interests in your free time. So, okay, for myself, there's my own self-care as 1. There's time for my wife, 2. There's time for both of my children, that's 4. And then there's time for us as a family unit, 5. I play golf, that's 6. I play chess, that's 7. I do my reading and my writing, that's 8 and 9. I do journaling, that's 10. My prayer is 11. And then you keep adding on. So what happens is if you can fill your free time with all these different activities and interests and hobbies and crafts, if you lose your job, if your partner leaves you, if the world's ending, your world won't fall apart. You've got all these networks created. That's the idea behind it. So if I lose my job tomorrow, I know I can fall back on all the support groups I have in my family, in my chess, and in my golf, and in my friendships, and in my prayer. So I have all this background. But if I'm focused only on my job, and say I just go to my job, come home, and it's the couch, eating crap, watching TV for my 8 hours of my free time, go to work again, I lose my job, I'm going to suffer in the endless despair and depression that my world is over. So when my partner leaves me, my boyfriend or girlfriend leaves me, my world is over. They made me and they've left me and I can't do. And that's what happens an awful lot to people. They get stuck dependent on a job or a partner, or one thing, or their one thing is their crafts. And suddenly for some reason they break their arm. And it's like, my world is over, and they go to a dark place. So you want to fill up your 8 hours of free time with as much as you can put in there. And not just even just when you say your daughter or your son, also your daughter and son's interests. So you have your daughter, but then your daughter likes to go parachute gliding or rock climbing. You go and watch that. And that's another thing. Your parents are, and you're interacting with them and you're building more networks. So try and expand those 8 hours of the 8 hours. Your 8 hours at night time you're given to God. Your 8 hours in your job, your boss and your manager is the boss. But in your free time, you can fill your free time up with so much. I mean, I was looking at the MommaFoxFire's room with all her paintings and her glow lights and all her clothing and all kind of stuff. And she tells me she's got 2 kids. She's all these things in her life. She's not going to fall apart. I get that from your impression, looking at you, that one thing, if your boyfriend left you, or your world wouldn't collapse. You may be upset now. I'm not saying you wouldn't be upset if you lost a job or the internet went down, you couldn't do, and you lost your passion, but you'd find some other way. You'd have enough in your gas tank of all these different network things that you created that you'd find some other way to express yourself. That's the idea behind it.
Yeah. I really feel like it's a great way to kind of explain that too, because, I lived through the housing crisis in 2008 and I did lose my job because I was in general contracting. And so everyone in that field basically lost their job, but I was able to make it through, and it took me some time, but I was able to find another job. And like, it was very much like I leaned on family. I leaned on friends. I did all this stuff. And, some of the other stuff that I've lived through in my life, now definitely I have that confidence of, if something happens to my job, to my partner, to one of my kids or something, like whatever it is, we'll handle it as it comes. It's just that kind of thing of like, okay, you've got all these connections. If something happens with my job, okay, well, I've got a lot of people that I still talk to from old jobs that I can just go and see how they're doing, and I keep up with them and all this. And then if something happens with my youngest, he does jujitsu and judo, and like if something happens there and he gets injured, like I've got all of these folks, all these other parents from that I can just call up and be like, what do I do? And so it's really nice to have that kind of network and have that mentality of, yeah, you're doing all these things. You got to look at that as your support network and as kind of that net to catch you if you need to fall a little bit. I think that's a really great way to kind of put that through. And I love this comment from the chat, because whenever you were talking about the prayer and writing everything down, Bite Mark says that's going to be a long list. And I wonder, though, if it would get shorter over time, like as you're writing it down, every day is like, oh, well, I don't have to write down MommaFoxFire because she didn't have a live show today. Like,
well, exactly. The whole thing is, there's two things I'd like to share with you. One is we're meant to be a part of the solution, not apart from the solution. So many people who've been diagnosed with disorders, being diagnosed with disorder causes you to push people away. They feel they don't understand you, they don't get you, all that kind of stuff. And it makes you withdraw into yourself more and more. And this really can destroy your life if you're depending on being only with you or just you and other people who are broken. It's not a healthy way to live. You've got to find a way of, like that, expanding your 8 hours to get into as many different fields, to take chances and tell people how you're. So start with God first. Tell God how you're feeling on that sheet of paper, and that sheet of paper will get smaller. You'll night in after night, and you're getting in. People who used to trigger you won't trigger anymore. What will happen is you're walking along and you'll meet your uncle, and suddenly you walk in and they've lost their power over you. So if you're abused by somebody and they have the ability to walk into a room and you just carry in a corner and it's collapsed and they're able to do what they want. As you do this more and more, you'll find suddenly they'll walk into a room and it's like you'll say and they kind of go, fuck off, get away from me, step back, you're not welcome here. And they'll be shocked that you've got your power back. Simply by giving them to God, God takes them on his. Now, here's the cool thing. We have two choices. We can't have our cake and eat. If we search for vengeance and justice on this earth, it means our abusers, when they die, they get to go to heaven. It sounds crazy. But if we don't search for vengeance and justice on this earth, and we give it to God, then they may have a wonderful life on this earth. They may have abundant life and big cars and big houses and travel the world and be multimillionaires. But when they do die, they're going straight to hell. So you can choose either for them to face your wrath or God's wrath. But the Bible says, if you harm one hair on the child of God, better for you to tie a rock around your neck or climb to the highest mountain and throw yourself in the deepest sea than face my wrath. If you're a Catholic, you won't get to go to St. Peter and argue. If you abuse somebody and they didn't pursue the abuse on this earth, you will face the fires of hell for all eternity. And 7 generations of yours to follow will follow you down into the fires of hell. So my choice was, I can keep searching for vengeance. What happened to me as a 12-year-old child. And let's imagine, for instance, I won a case and they're brought into the courts, and the courts find them guilty. The courts will say, well, it happened 50 years ago and the jails are really full, so we let them off with a slap in the wrist. Would that equate to my abuse as a 12-year-old child? No way. So would I be happy with that, or see him arriving at the pearly gates and finding he doesn't even get to the pearly gate? He drops straight into hell and he lives there for all eternity. Yes, I'll take that in a flash. That equates to my pain. That would be equal to my pain. And so that's what I did. I gave my wrath to God. I forgave the person. I wish them well. I wish they have abundant life. I know when they get to the other side, they're going to have the fires of hell for eternity. So you have to pray for the other person, wish them the very best in life, that they have everything, wealth and prosperity and health and all the kind of travel the world and all the kind of stuff you want for yourself, you wish for them. And that takes your power back from them. So when you meet them, they don't have any effect on you. And then you'll find you can mark them off your list, give them to God. They no longer have any power over you. They come off your list. But your list will always change because we live in this fallen world and we're meeting people that annoy us and frustrate us. And if you're living this life on life's terms, it's a bitch. If you live this life on God's terms, suddenly everything starts working out because you realize you were never the victim. I realized today I was of my abuser. He wanted to act out in his abusing. And in fact, that happened. It wasn't I was in, he invaded space. He could have invaded somebody else's space. He invaded my space. He came into my space. It wasn't my fault. I wasn't in the wrong place at the wrong time, but I wasn't his victim. If some other child had been there, he would have taken them. He would have hurt them. I happened to be just his victim on that day, but I'm not actually, he didn't wake up thinking, I have to look for a child called Richard Tierney and abuse him. So I wasn't his intended victim. So you learn you're not the victim. You're not the target of anything in life, whatever's happening. If your boss fires you, he's not firing you because he doesn't like you. He's firing you because he needs someone to do a job to, but you're not the victim. It's him meeting his own needs. This is a great help to help you get out of this state of mental, emotional unwellness, to understand that we're not the victim or the martyr. People are doing stuff because that's what they do. People do shit. We may not like it, but they're doing their own stuff. They're not doing it to us. They're doing it for their own benefits or their own needs to be met. And that helps enough now to break free of this. The second part of this, and again, I'm going into God again, and I can't help but understand that you and I are children of God. Okay, we are perfect exactly as we are, with all our defects, all our doubts, and all our insecurities, all our peculiarity. We are perfect exactly as we are. God created us as we are. He created us for a reason. Others can do what we can do, but nobody can do what you or I can do with our energy. That's what makes us so unique and so special. And God has never made a mistake in all of creation, starting with you or I. You were created for a reason. You have purpose. When you find that reason or you find that purpose, you will know a life beyond your wildest dreams. So just don't give up just yet. The miracles are going to happen when they're around the corner. It might be on MommaFoxFire that you've realized. I have purpose. I have a reason for living. I'm going to go on now and I'm going to start using that list. I'm going to start setting boundaries with my boss, with my family. I'm going to looking into my social life and creating more networking. Suddenly you realize, God, I'm going to write a book about this. I'm going to create a blog or follow from Mama's Foxfire and start a podcast. You don't know what your purpose is just yet because you've been kind of stuck. But when you can get out of that stickiness, I like to call it, and step into finding your path, you'll be blown away.
Now we've talked a little bit about God, we've talked a little bit about religion. What was your personal relationship with religion or spirituality growing up, and how has that changed over time?
I was raised in a Roman Catholic home.
Mm.
My family were all Roman Catholics. We lived in Ireland, and my father came up, and my parents, both my father and my mother, and my grandparents came up when we were under the rule of England. And England ruled Ireland, and it was a really bad time to be a Catholic. You weren't allowed to practice your Catholic faith.
Mm.
And there's a lot of abuse going on from the English who ruled Ireland at that time. It was a civil war in the end. And that's why Northern Ireland and Republic Ireland are separate. England still own Northern Ireland. It's not part of Ireland. There's a lot of bad blood around religion. And even soccer teams here, they don't play because they're different nationals. They play because they're religious. So that, like in Scotland, you got Rangers, Celtic is Catholic football team, and Rangers the Protestant.
Mm.
And the hatred is for the religion and not for so a lot of stuff was behind in the background. My grandfather was on a prison ship in Dublin Bay. The English had him in a prison ship because he fought against the Civil War and so on. So there's a lot of history that you're carrying on your shoulders as well, and
Mm-hmm.
the past and all kinds of stuff. And that affects who you believe and what you believe, how you believe. So a Catholic can never not be a Catholic because then you're betraying your ancestors. All the kind of stuff comes into it, which is really bad because it really kind of blocks you from finding Christ. You no longer are you Christian for being a Christian. You're a Christian because you're either a Catholic or a Protestant or Presbyterian or Baptist or whatever it is. So growing up, I grew up in a Catholic upbringing, and it just didn't work for me. Sadly, I had two friends who committed suicide.
Mm.
They couldn't take it anymore and they committed suicide. And they weren't allowed to be buried in Catholic grounds because they committed suicide. It was a sin. They weren't allowed to have a service in the church. And this struck me as completely wrong.
Yeah.
If Jesus was alive today, he would have let them into any church, kicked out the taxpayers and the money collectors and the money lenders and the sellers. But he would have certainly let any child who either lost their life or took their life, he would have given them a space. I just believe that of Jesus, that's just the way he was. In the New Testament, that's who he was. He would never have dreamed of saying no to somebody coming in for their families to grieve. So that turned me from the Roman Catholic faith and among other things. So a great part of for me was that I told MommaFoxFire earlier on, I did a geographical. I ran away from myself and I moved to the 20 odd years ago. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like my life. Nothing about my life I liked. I was in that victimhood state in Ireland. So I ran to live in Thailand, and I ran away. Not a healthy person at all back then. But I also ran from my religion and the upbringing and all those being a Catholic. I got to leave that behind me. And I got to meet a lot of other people in, in Thailand here who are also in recovery, but there's Protestants and Catholics and Presbyterians and Anglicans and Baptists and Jehovah. There's different churches you could go to here. And I started doing all that, and I found great sense of understanding from different religions. Taught me an awful lot, different denominations, sorry, not really. Always remained a Christian. So I joined a Protestant Baptist church, a Presbyterian church. It wasn't that I was hopping around. I just tried to find one that would fit. But it came to a stage where I realized no man-made religion would fit my needs.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bible fitted it, Jesus fitted it, and God fitted it, and Christ fitted it. And that was enough for me. So today I'm not a member of any man-made religion. I'm not a member of any church or any denomination. But I do have my Bible. I believe that I am a son of God. I believe I am a sibling of Jesus. And I believe that today I am reaching to Christ. I can't perform the miracles that Jesus performed. But I can perform miracles in my mind. Like I know I can perform the miracle of peace of mind, of casting out my triggers, casting out my nightmares at night. And they're miracles for me because I used to go to bed and I would be tossing all night long. I'd be crying into my pillow with the nightmares and the triggers and the voice in my head assailing me. And so when I did that letter and I gave it to God, I gave him the voices in my head, the nightmares and the flashbacks and the triggers, I would get 8 hours of peace of mind. And that was a miracle to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I realized I was a miracle worker. I was able to perform a miracle on myself and get 8 hours of peace of sleep. So that was the kind of the change. I'm no longer now. If you're a member of church or religion, I'm delighted for you. If that works for you, go for it. I'm not saying you can't go for it. You shouldn't go for it. For me, it doesn't work. But having God, Jesus, and Christ in my life works wonders. And I have conversations with God, Jesus, and Christ all day long. I'm walking the dog, I'm driving the car. Before I met up with MommaFoxFire, that I wouldn't make a show of myself. I prayed that he'd watch over me for the next, whatever it is, hour, and take care of me in this hour and remove all that letter from my mind so I'd be peaceful and relaxed and speak slowly and clearly. And hopefully you'd all understand my words. I wouldn't sound like a crazy, raved lunatic, and maybe one of you would get some hope from me. And that's what I asked him to do. And hopefully I'm nailing it because he's taking that from me, and so on. And again, today I'm with my wife. And there's times when my wife and I can clash. And I just know self-restraint of pen and word and tongue. I don't say a word. She says something to me, and even if she's right or wrong, I don't react. Because if I say something back, we're screwed. We're going to be fighting for days. So I just zip my lid, I let it go. And then an hour later, my wife would say to me, I'm sorry I got angry this morning. I'm just in a bad space. But if I had responded, there would have been anarchy. That's, So you learn these things. You learn self-restraint is my greatest tool today. And then I'm going to self-restrain myself and let.
I mean, I feel like a lot of folks, especially in the US right now, a lot of folks are finding that kind of disenfranchisement with religion as far as the church goes. And it's like you're saying one thing, but if you go and read the actual Bible and you read the New Testament especially, like you're not following what the Bible says now. So I really think that that's going to resonate with a lot of folks, just saying, you don't have to be religious to have a relationship with God. It can be completely separate. I think that that's something that some folks struggle with, and I'm glad to hear that it's working for you.
Well, that's the message.
Yeah.
Honestly, God wants a personal, intimate relationship
Mm-hmm.
with you alone, not with your mommy or daddy or your brother or sister or your abuser or your whatever, solely with you. He doesn't need you to go to some church and stand up on the pews and put your hands up and do all this in front of people. That's getting glory on this earth. He says, I want to have this between you and I. And if you're in a bad mood, come over and say to me, God, you motherfucker, I'm really angry at you because I'm having a shit day. And give him your grief. Give him all your crap. Call him every name under the sun. You can call him, you can curse at the fella. He doesn't kind. As long as you're having a personal relationship with him, it's like you with your best friend. Your best friend allows you to have a bad day. Well, God wants to be your best friend. He wants you to have a bad day. If you're having a bad day, curse at him. Call him every name under the sun, and then tell him what's going on and ask him to take it from. And that's it. And don't tell anyone. Now, the thing is, when I first started doing this, I told nobody. I didn't tell any of my siblings or my best friends I'm doing this. I kept it quiet for about 7 years. I just kept it to myself doing this. day in, day out, day in, day out. And then finally, about 4 months ago, I was speaking to my best friend from Ireland. He's my close friend since childhood. And we were on the phone. I said to him, "Do you still go to church?" He says, "I do." I said, "God, can I tell you about my God experience?" And then we had a chat for about an hour and a half. I told him about what I'm doing with my God thing, whatever. And he said, yeah, he got back into going to church because he missed it in his life. The Sunday Mass at 7 p.m. on a Sunday night in his local church. Every night now he goes. He loves it. He doesn't really get the priest or anything, but he sits there for the energy of it. And then when they talk about the scripture, he likes the words, lets them sink into his psyche. And then he like the communion, he just goes for that period of energy that gets him ready for the next week. You can do this any way you want to do this. You don't have to follow any rules or regulations. Priests say to you, you must do it this way. Tell them to feck off politely. Pastors, ministers, I'm not doing it that way. I want to have a personal relationship with him, not with you, personal relationship with God, not with your church, with God. Okay, I'm going to have that relationship with God. There's great teachers out there you'll find on the internet, YouTube, whatever, and in libraries that can teach you to understand the Bible. The Bible was written 2,000 years ago, and it's got a lot of language that we wouldn't understand in modern language. So you may have to get yourself a modern language and an explanation of it. And don't be afraid to do some study, like you do some study. Well, this is for your spiritual well-being, to heal the whole of your soul and get rid of all these demons. So do the homework just for you, for nobody else, not for me, not for MommaFoxFire, solely for you. Don't tell anyone you're doing it. Just go down to the library for an hour sit in the library and do one of your new activities in your social time, an hour, 40 minutes, sit in one corner with a book, read a book, get an audio file and listen to it, and soak up anything to help you understand the words of Jesus and what it is to be Christ. So MommaFoxFire is Christ. I'm Christ. My wife is Christ. And my wife is a Buddhist. She's not a Christian, but I have to see Christ in my wife. I must see Christ in MommaFoxFire. So I know if I'm not going to treat MommaFoxFire disrespectfully, because then I'm treating Christ disrespectfully. And that would be a terrible no-no if I'm living this life. So I try to see Christ in every other place. So my wife is a Buddhist. She's not a Christian. Unfortunately, over here in Thailand, back in her, when she was at school, there was these browbeating Baptists going around forcing religion down the throats of children as missionaries. And she got turned off to it. So she's a Buddhist today, and she's remained a Buddhist. She's no desire to be a Christian. She's seen no reason why she should become a Christian. Her experience of Christians were these Bible thumping, you're going to die if you don't get it kind of stuff, scaremongers. So she has an experience. I'm hoping to become that experience that she might try to work. But today she's a Buddhist and a Buddhist alone. But I see Christ in her. So I try then to self-restrain with her every occasion I can.
Yeah. And it's good that you're, there and accepting her and her experiences. And it's difficult whenever you have a negative experience to then equate an entire religion with something good after that, on the heels of that. You mentioned healing the hole in the soul. So what does healing the hole in the soul, what does that mean?
Thank you for the question. I love this question. It has been my favorite question, audience. When we suffer with a past trauma memory, and I've said before, it didn't happen to us, it happened to our younger self. And we carry that within our soul. And because we can't treat it, it eats away at us. And you know that. And anyone in this audience would know what I'm talking about. You're all nodding in agreement. Like, no one sees it. That's the problem. No mental health professional, no family member can see the hole in your soul. They can only see how it manifests. So if you're crying a lot, or if you're overeating, or if you're drinking, self-harming, they're the behaviors they see. And they treat the behaviors. But the behaviors are part of your coping skill. They're not the problem. The problem is the hole in your soul. So we have to treat the hole in the soul. And it's a very simple, it's not rocket science. This is, a child could do this. And a lot of the audience will know, you can heal yourselves very, very simply. You're going to give the details of the past back to your younger self. So I use in my practice, it's a visualize. So imagine, let's just try this. Maybe we can treat somebody here today. Wouldn't that be really wonderful? So wherever you are, sit back in your seat. I want you to close your eyes, breathe into your nose only. Just breathe into your nose, relax your whole body, okay? I don't need to know your story or your history. As long as you know I want you to picture two people. The person you are today, and that version of you who suffered the trauma. So for me, I'd be looking at 64-year-old Richard standing beside 12-year-old Richard. And give them two different names. So Richard today and 12-year-old Richie is the child. In your mind, try and pick those people standing side by side. So, MommaFoxFire, I thought you were very young. Son, I'm kind of going, how old is this girl? She looks about 17. She's an 18-year-old son. So let's imagine then you must be about 30, say. So let's say you're 30 years of age, okay? And in your childhood, there was someone who was 12. Again, so you'd be seeing 30-year-olds, MommaFoxFire, standing beside this young 12-year-old child, okay? So again, picture yourself today standing beside that younger version, okay? Breathing into your nose, let your mind clear. In this moment, imagine you're having a conversation. Now, you're going to have this 12-year-old child, this younger version of you talking to you. It won't be pretty. Allow my words to sink into your psyche. Okay, here goes. What are you doing? I've been trying to get your attention for all these years. I can't cross over into the light until I have. And you taking my baggage into the present and living it as though it happened to you means I can't over. I'm stuck in a state of limbo, like a purgatory. I can't cross over into the light, into heaven. I can see all of our ancestors waiting for me. I can see God and Jesus, and they're waiting to hold me in their arms and give me peace. This world isn't for me. I suffered in my childhood. It's not your job to fight my battles for me or to suffer my pain for me. I never asked, wanted, or needed you to fight my battles or suffer my pains. All I want from you is to go on and have the life that I sacrificed so much for you to have. A life in your present, beyond my wildest dreams. I suffered, endured, survived, and overcame my trauma, so you'd be free today to have a life beyond my wildest dreams. You wouldn't be alive today if I hadn't survived and I hadn't overcome the trauma. So please, for me, let go of this baggage and details and step into the life you have with your family, your partner, your children, your friends, and have an abundant, rich life in the present. So I'm going to ask you in this moment, just release all the baggage, all the sympathy pains, all the need for vengeance and justice. In your mind's eye, imagine seeing yourself with a big bag on your shoulders. Place your hands upon your chest. Imagine you're pulling the straps off your chest. Open your hands and shake your hands off. The bag falls off your shoulders. Feel it falling from your shoulders. And see me sending a host of angels to take this bag up off your and carrying it away. Feel it release in your body like a lightness in your body. You're letting go of all this baggage, all the nightmare flashback to the triggers. You're letting it all go in this one moment, just releasing it. The past is gone. It's no longer yours. You see me taking it. I step into the light. I'm waving back at you. Thank you. I step into the light and I'm gone. And when you're ready, when you come back to the moment, open your eyes and feel the sense that you have let go of your past. You've given it to your younger self. They've stepped into the light. They're gone from this plane of existence. And now all the details and the baggage up is gone. If your therapist was to ask you about the past, you'd be able to say, sorry, I can't help you. It didn't happen to me. I don't have those details anymore. They've left this plane of existence. It happened to my younger self. I feel for them, but they're gone. If you can help me work out my life today, that'd be great, but the past is gone. That's basically the 2-hour healing event in about. That's why I would take you through a visualization where you'd be giving this back to your younger self. Now, again, you have to release all the energy in your body. I use EFT and acupressure, and I use some Reiki, all combined to get that energy out of your body. It gets that back to yourself, and it's gone. But in that moment, if you can feel a sense of a change in your being, well, know that you're on the way to heal.
It's really interesting. I think that the parallel between what you said earlier about forgiving someone and just like letting that go and saying like, I forgive this person. I'm not going to think about them anymore. I wish them all the best. It's kind of doing the same thing with your younger self. It's not necessarily forgiveness, but it's saying like, I was a different person. That happened to me when I was a different person. I don't need to carry that weight with me now. I feel like those are so close. Like there's such close ideas to one another. It's really fascinating to me. But I really enjoy the idea of saying, okay, this happened to me. I wasn't the person that I am today. You know, it's like I was 25. Now I'm 40. That's a completely different person from what I am now. And it's really neat to just kind of look at that and go, okay, I get it. I get that it wasn't me anymore. But I don't think a lot of folks think about it that way. Like you can really ruminate on it and get caught up in it.
The problem is we've been conditioned into believing that what happened to a girl 25 years ago happened to 40-year-olds MommaFoxFire.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about it happened to me, the 25-year-old me, but it didn't happen to you. I have to understand you only exist
Hmm.
when you go to bed last night and you give it to God and He takes it from you. You only have these 24 hours. And if you've given 8 hours to God, you have 16, and you're only alive for 16 hours, you now live immortal at a time. And you're not the person you were yesterday,
Hmm.
because yesterday you weren't having a chat with me. Today you're having a chat with me. So you're a different person. So you can't say the person you are today is the person you were yesterday,
Yeah.
because you are 24 hours older and wiser. You've had 24 hours more experience. So you've experienced my podcast, and my truths have been shared, and they have changed you. Even though you may not agree with me fully, or you might agree, your brain has changed, your energy has changed about for your audience, all your audience, they've changed their opinion of it. They're not the same person they were yesterday. They can't go back and be yesterday, because what they've learned in your podcast today, they are now different. So if you're 40 years old today, you cannot be 25-year-olds. That's why you have to see the two people side by side.
Yeah.
You have to separate. I'm 40 years of age today. That's a 25-year-old child. I can't say that's because that's a different person. That's a 25-year-old
Hmm.
child. And I'm a 40-year-old woman today, where Donald Trump's the president of America. 25 years ago, the president of America was John Ford or whoever, 25 years ago, 15 years ago. So we're not the same person. No,
Hmm.
all his family were alive. He lived in the family home. She lived in the family home 15 years ago. I live in my own home with my husband, kids. Once you can really paint a picture of who you are today
Hmm.
and who that child is, you're able to separate, and don't be saying that was the 25-year-old me, because
Yeah.
it can't be you, because you live today. So that's what the goal of this. That's why it takes 2 hours, not 5 minutes. We need your audience to get to a place where, to the paper, they write down their younger self. So if they're 17 years of age, down 5-year-old Becky, and they put everything but 5-year-old Becky, lived in a dysfunctional home, lived in the family home. The grandparents were alive, the parents were alive, aunts and uncles were alive. Their best school friend was so and so, so and so. And then you get a sheet of paper and you put down 17-year-old Rebecca, no longer lives in family home, no longer sees her parents, doesn't see much of her relations, lives in the other side of the country. Her best school friend today is this. In university today, this child was in a junior school. So you draw this whole comparison, 2 sheets of paper,
Hmm.
and you may put a photograph beside the 5-year-old Becky on this page and a photograph of 17-year-old Rebecca here, to show the 2 different people.
Yeah.
The whole thing for this is we have to see we're not the same person we were yesterday. We're not the same for 10 years or 50 years. And if we can do that by drawing these 2 comparisons, then you have to see that I'm carrying the baggage of somebody else.
Hmm.
They never asked me to carry it. They never wanted me to carry it. And it's like, here's one for you. So, okay, I gather you're 40 years of age. So let's imagine you have trauma in your day today. There's stuff going on in your life today, nothing to do with the past. You're having difficulty with neighbors or something in your life. It's really getting you down, okay? But you're committed to overcoming it today, so that in the future, okay? Now imagine you're looking into the future. You see that in the future, you sacrifice so much. See them in their futures, putting out a chest from the corner, putting up the chest and putting out a cloak, and putting the cloak on the body and putting it up and stepping out as a few times saying, this, and then telling everything years ago happened. That make you feel.
This is a great comment from Bite Mark. She says it's all about letting go of the rope that's cutting into your hand. If that information isn't serving you now, you're not the same person that you were back then. So it's yeah.
You have to understand, and it didn't. So again, when we had the glitch, your future self stuff past in 20 years' time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It being a victim.
Yeah.
For me, it's being a victim of what happened. For I was for many years. You have to find your meaning in the present, in the past. And let our past go. Let all the of identity go to the eyes of a PTSD. That becomes our badge of honor. That becomes our identity, and that becomes what we think is our meaning.
Mm.
But that was never your meaning for life. That was belonging to somebody else. God wants you to find your life, and Mama Foxfire has her life in this podcast.
Yeah.
Her passion. I mean, she's finding her space here and being 2 children and a partner. She's finding her space outside of the past. And that's what we all must do. So I've let my past go. I've given that past back to me. And now I'm a husband and a father, and I'm a therapist, and I'm a friend, and I'm a cyclist and a golfer and a chess player and an author And I find all my meaning in the, and again, on this podcast, if one word of my affords you hope, then I've done God's will. Then I've found my meaning. If there's, I like to think, I share this an awful lot. Just imagine for one moment that MommaFoxFire and I have this podcast today, okay? And we reach one of your audience, maybe the girl who spoke about the let go of the rope. They take hope from these words, and they go on to start a life free of the past. They have a life beyond their wildest dreams, and they get married, and they have. And one of their descendants in 3 or 4 creates a cure for cancer or AIDS. No one will give the recognition or the accolades to myself and MommaFoxFire, but God will know we did our part.
Yeah.
We played our part. And the same thing, no one will give accolades or recognition to the girl who mentioned about the rope, let go of the rope, but God will know that she did her part by carrying it forward into her life. And that's where she'll get her rewards from God. So we may not get the reward for what we do here today, any of us who are listening to this, but if this creates in us the ability to change the lives of those following us, then that may have been our cause. That may have been our meaning for life, our purpose. So you were created for a reason. There's somewhere in your future you can help your descendants, or maybe your cousin's descendants, or your best friend's descendants go on to create a cure for cancer or AIDS, and you've played your part by carrying this message. That's what I believe is our goal.
Yeah. And she did say you're welcome to have that comment and use it as you would like. So that's great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
A couple of other comments from the chat for sure I want to read. One of my favorite experiences so far since moving to Colorado has been a little old dude saying, "This is God's country," very emphatically in a positive way. And we both immediately agreed. It sure is. We didn't mean the same thing he did, but it didn't really matter. Both sides of that conversation were just appreciating the place we were in and the way it makes us feel. And we all left the conversation smiling. And that's referring back to kind of our conversation about religion versus having your own relationship with God. You can look at things in the world kind of the way that you want to look at them and take from them what you need without the rules of someone else saying, "Oh, this is God's country," and you don't have to take what they mean, however they intend it. You can receive it how you want to receive it and how that serves you. So I think that that's great. And then another comment.
And we're God's children. So whether you're a Baptist or a Protestant or a Catholic or an atheist or an agnostic or whatever, we are all God's children. We're all equal in that.
Another comment says, "Wait, if I choose to be my younger self, can I control who the president is? Because living in my trauma might be worth it on a universal scale." I hear you. I hear you. So Richard, how do you view your work in the broader mental health landscape? Do you see it as a complement to therapy or something that replaces therapy, or how do you see yourself fitting in?
Wow. This is like a loaded question. My problem is I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not qualified to be a mental health professional. I believe there's 2 forms of mental illness that we have in this world today. There's mental illness, which can only be treated by mental health professionals. And no one else should be going anywhere near that with a barge pole. But mental disorders are conditions, diagnoses caused by a past trauma memory. So if you have a past trauma in your life, now when we go to a doctor, you go to a dentist, you go to the dentist, you don't tell the dentist, "My teeth are fine." If you have a sore tooth, you kind of go, "Oh, this tooth here." Now, and you tell them the worst case scenario, and then they treat that. You go to a psychiatrist or psychologist, you give them the worst case scenario, how life can be, how bad it is. You don't go and say, "Yeah, no, life is fantastic. I'm loving my life." So you'll tell them how bad it can be. And then the thing diagnose you on how bad it can. That doesn't mean how bad it is. So I believe that veterans who come back from any conflict or war, they suffer with a state of hopelessness and a state of inferiority. That on the war zone, they were giants amongst men. They could achieve the most phenomenal stuff. But those skills are no good in the modern world, in the civilized world. And so they feel out of sorts. They don't fit in. They're no good at stacking shelves or doing menial work when they were saving the world and saving lives. It's a different thing. They can feel inferior in something that is mediocre compared to what they did. They can be failing in it, and they can feel inferior for that. That can cause a terrible state of hopelessness. And when they go to a therapist, then they're not going to say life is wonderful. They're going to try and express the bouts of depression, the bouts of stress, the bouts of anxiety they experience in these times. And when they present that all together as one, they're diagnosed with a mental disorder called PTSD. But PTSD is a diagnosis presenting is not the actual cause. The cause is I have nightmares and flashbacks because of this event in the past. I need to get rid of that. But the mental health professionals treat how it manifests. They give you medication for the depression and for the stress and for the anxiety and for all these reactions. But that's not their state of being. Their state of being is a sense of wholeness. It can only be fed in the soul. So most mental health professionals are not really excited focused because they have the whole thing's wrapped up in mental illness and mental. Holistic practitioners coming in, they're seen as being something kind of they'll put up with, but they're not really a part of the solution. And that's kind of that's kind of like the area that I'm in, the kind of area where it's down to clients themselves to make a decision. The mental health industry will never say, go to Richard Tierney and get treated for your treatment, because that then undermines the whole mental health industry. But so I would love to replace the mental health industry. Hands on heart, I'd love each person to go, I don't have a mental disorder. I'm not mentally ill. I have a hole in my soul. I want to treat the hole in my soul. I treat the hole in the soul. That I saw recently on some interview on YouTube or somewhere, some famous psychologist said he expects the mental disorder industry to be finished in 50 years. I'm kind of going, wow, someone else kind of is seeing the light that maybe that mental disorder isn't the way forward, that maybe there is a space where we can look at healing the soul, that if people can turn back to the idea of God and heal the soul and make peace with that and let go of the past, then they can be normal people. And again, the goal is to be a normal boy. That's the goal. It's not to be rich and famous or, rocks. All we want to be is be able to sleep at night without nightmares, to wake up and be able to go to my job and do a full day's work. And when I'm with my family and friends, be comfortable in their space, not have secrets, be able to talk and interact. And that's all we're looking to do. And if healing a hole in your soul can allow you. So imagine for 1 minute you're diagnosed with a veteran, and you come on this show and you hear this and it kind of makes sense to you, because I worked with one client and he had been with 25 different therapists.
Wow.
Over 20 years. And in that he's had about medication, but nothing's worked. And nothing does work because we're treating the symptom, treating the effect. And so when I did this work with him, it blew him away, the fact that it worked. But then he felt so threatened because he's going to have to get the identity that's built into all that he walked away from it. So there's a big challenge that if you do this work, you've got to give up being a victim. And that's the hardest challenge you're going to face. Giving up your meaning of being a victim and wearing that badge. This is who I am. I'm a victim. I was this, the other. Giving that up and being a normal, boring human being is the biggest challenge you have. It isn't giving up the medication. It isn't giving up therapy. It's giving up that badge that you've been conditioned to wear. We celebrate it. Look on all social media, the celebration days, all the groups, all this kind of stuff. There should be a big fun and movement and marches and all that kind of stuff. It's a big whole keep it alive kind of thing. So for you to give it up and walk away from it, that could be the biggest challenge you'll face. That's the biggest challenge I face, is clients wondering, my whole life is in this organization. All my friends are in this organization. All my peers and all my sense of identity and who I am, job, my worth is being a part of this and being a voice, PTSD or depression, all the kind of stuff, and suddenly be able to be a normal, boring human being. I don't know if I'm willing to pay that price. I don't know. I prefer to suffer for the rest of my life than maybe step into being a normal, boring being with my parents and everybody. So that's the biggest challenge in this. I found it is challenging to have to step out of the space you're in into a space of normalcy. And that's probably the biggest challenge. So again, do I replace? I don't. I think it's a bigger picture is, are people ready to do this work? That's the biggest challenge we have.
So if someone has worked really hard to tell their story or feel heard, how do you approach kind of this concept without silencing or invalidating them? Because I personally do think that it is important to share stories, especially in the case of like domestic abuse and emotional abuse and physical abuse and those kinds of things. I think it's important for folks to hear those kinds of stories and see that someone has survived it. But what you're saying is a little bit kind of on the side of, okay, let it go, let it be in the past, don't talk about it. So how do you approach that? Like, Is there a space where everything needs to be kind of out in the open? Go ahead.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize what I said. Okay, so we have our history. We're human beings. We're meant to have all our stories. We carry our stories to the day we die. And we're meant to have all our stories, good and bad, the horror stories, the wins, the successes. We're meant to talk about our stories, but we're not meant to own them as being who we are today.
I see. Okay.
You can talk about what the past happened to yourself. You can't go and say, yeah, as a 12-year-old, those times of messes an 80-year-old or boy. So yes, in my past and it was hard. You talk about what happened to your younger self. It's perfectly reasonable to share your stories.
Yeah.
They talk about, in childhood there was sexual abuse, physical abuse, in my teenage years, with mental, emotional, physical, spiritual abuse, and talk about it. And don't be afraid to talk about it. Something that happened to in your younger self. He exists today. The story you could talk about that pertains to you is the MommaFoxFire, 40 years of age, and a boyfriend living from America, an art, a craft, whatever it is. So you can talk as about the history, the 20-year-old version of you, the 13-year-old version of you, the 10-year-old version of you. All you want for a day, you need to experience this event. You experience that event. You want to experience that event. I live in today. Again, we have our history. That's how we carry our story, hand our story to children. But then you realize that you're a 12-year-old child, all these stories that you will pass on for generations. We can't be in two places at once. Either we live at this moment in time, we live when we're 25 or 20 or 15 or 17, where we can't live in both places. So you're welcome to tell your stories, and you should tell your stories. And if someone asks me, I conversation with MommaFoxFire about my past, I will tell you in detail what happened. But I need you to know what happened to a 12-year-old child that didn't happen to me. And then if you want to ask me what's happening in my life, I will tell you what's happening to this man about being on MommaFoxFire's podcast, taking my wife and children out, taking my dog for a walk, my other work I have to do today, my hopes and dreams and aspirations. I'll talk about me today, but we have to separate I with the person in the past.
Yeah. I really appreciate all that clarification, because I really strongly believe that you're right. We have to tell the stories of the things we've lived through and how we got through them. And I think that really shows kind of the hope that there is in the world, and that, you're not alone in anything that you're going through. Folks have been here before, maybe not in your exact shoes, but in a similar situation, and that there's hope on the other side of things. But that kind of the ownership of the fallout of that is something that you can let go of a little bit. So I thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that for sure.
A meditation will help an awful lot. Is God's name is I am. And so we use his name, I am. Whatever we attach to it, we manifest in our lives. And this is profound. I never understood this. God answers all our prayers day long. Now, the prayers aren't what we learned at our mother's knee or in school or church. They're powerful prayers, but somebody else wrote for them. Our prayers are a self-talk, the things we say to ourselves when we think no. So if I'm walking around saying, I am depressed, I am alone, no one likes me, no one loves me, I can't get a job, no one wants, everyone hates me. These are my prayers, and God answers. God doesn't deal with feelings. He gave us a free will and a book of instructions on how to use it properly. And if we're stupid enough or reckless enough to not read the instruction manual, we're going to suffer the consequences. So if I go around saying, I am depressed, I am post-traumatic stress, I am bipolar, I am alone, no one understands, cares, I don't fit in here. These are our prayers, and God answers them tenfold. He doesn't hear the feelings, he just hears what we say. And there are prayers we have to learn to say, up until this morning, I believe that I was deep and alone and no one loved me. But on MommaFoxFire's podcast today, listen to Richard, I realize I've been my own worst enemy. And I choose to declare it. I am happy, joyous, and free. I am abundant. I'm going to so I'm going to be offered a new job. I love my life. I love the fact that opportunities are coming now. And by changing my day to 3 8-hour, fixing 8 hours, giving 8 hours to my boss, and then 8 hours is make as many activities as possible, my life has changed, transforming. Thank you, Lord. And that's your first prayer. And then you go to your second prayer and you go, I used to feel this way. And then you do the same thing again, and then so on. And you do this 10, 20 times a day for 30 days. And by day, you'll have been offered a job. You'll have met up somebody. You'll have a date. Your life will transform. When you start praying the right way, everything, and it's not getting it from a church. You're not getting it from me. You start doing this for yourself, and everything in your life will change. So your meditation is I am. You never say I. Everything you say will be I am, and you attach it to I am, what you want in your life. Forget scarcity and poverty. I am a multimillionaire. I am rich. I am healthy. I am alive. I am in a relationship. I'm getting married. Whatever it is you want in your life, you declare you have it by using God's name, I am. That's one of the best gifts I can give you today.
If someone is feeling stuck and they're not religious and they don't feel they have a personal relationship with God, or maybe they just don't know where to start, what would you want them to hear from you today?
Just what I said. They start saying, I am happy, joyous, and free. They repeat that all day long, on the walk, on the toilet, walking the dog, driving the car, on the bicycle, and you just keep saying it. I am happy, joyous, and free. I am healthy. I'm alive. I'm happy, joyous, and free. I'm healthy. I'm alive. I am loved. I am loved. I'm loving. Think of all the virtue stuff. Like I am forgiveness. I am tolerance. I am patient. I am kind. I am worthy. I am authentic. I am confident. I am courageous. I am a warrior. All the good stuff. Just repeat I am and say them. Say it again all day long. I do it. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. All day long. So I'm not in front of a PC, walking the dog. I just keep in my mind, I'm saying, I am happy, joyous, and free. I am loved. I'm loved. I'm loving. I'm lovable. Keep saying this. And what will happen is, I promise you, by day 10, you won't know yourself. You will have changed simply by saying this over and over again. You're sending a message into your subconscious. And psychiatrists will tell you this. If you change your thinking, your whole life changes. Whatever we focus on, we create. So if you're saying, I am depressed over and over, guess what? You're going to be depressed. You're going to be more depressed than you could possibly be. So just for the hell of it, don't tell anyone you're doing it. Just get a sheet of paper and write out 10 positive things. I am happy, joyous, and free. I have enough money in the bank. Money's always coming towards me. I feel healthy. I don't have anxiety. I'm happy. Whatever it is, write down 10 things and repeat those 10 things. Put them on your phone or in a pocket. Learn them off by heart and keep repeating them all day long. Every bus, on a train, out shopping, with the dog, walking the cat, cuddling the cat, in bed before you sleep. Keep repeating this over and over again. 100 times a day you just say these 10 things. By day 10, I promise you, come on and speak to MommaFoxFire here. You will be a changed person. All these things you're saying will start happening in your life. You'll find you're happier, you're joy, more. You feel free of the past. You'll feel like you've taken your power back from people. You'll feel like you'll suddenly be offered a job, part-time work, or training for a job, or a job will come up that you wanted and you'll apply for it. Things will start happening that weren't happening before.
I like that. And it has not, like you're saying, it kind of ties to the I am and that being the name of God. But if you're not religious, if you don't feel like that's something that you're interested in, that can still work for you. Like that's a universal thing that can work for you.
I'm not religious. And if anyone suggests I'm religious, I would tell them straight away, I am not religious. I don't want anything to do with any religion. Please don't. I don't think any of my work is supporting religion or denomination or anything. I am not religious. I just have a relationship with God where I tell him all day, I am happy, joyous, and free. I am wealthy. I'm the greatest podcast guest speaker ever to appear on the horizon. And I'm the greatest social media presence for trauma. A best-selling author. I just keep repeating these things over again. And if I do attach God's name to it, eventually God, we just changed. He's a new person. Okay, if he says he's this, then he's this. And he gives it to me. And it happens again and again.
That's great. What is your favorite life hack?
Well, it has to be breaking my day into 8 hours. That has to be probably the greatest hack.
You mentioned this at the beginning. Who was it that led you to that 3-hour break it into 3 8-hour? Who was it that led you to that?
A chap met on my travels. He's no longer with us.
Okay, gotcha.
He lost his life. So, but he told me this. Stuart, his name was Stuart. He's no longer with us, unfortunately. But he shared this with me, which just blew me away. Because I was kind of living one day at a time, or all of yesterday, plus today, and all of tomorrow, and packing all of my life into one day. And so now when I break it down to 3 8 hours and give 8 hours to God, when you have to deal with 16 hours. 16 hours is simple. A great thing is that you do this, and you do your 16 hours. So 6 a.m. in the morning till night is my routine. Okay.
Mhm.
So I get to work at 9 o'clock. I stop work at 9 o'clock. I've just done 3 hours of my life. I only got 30. The sensation of feeling I only have 13 hours to deal with my whole life is so wonderful. Then I get to my morning break at 11. I've only 11 hours left. There's a wonderful sense of achievement. I'm thinking, I've only 11 hours left. And then suddenly you get to 5 in the afternoon, you're kind of going, I have only 6 hours left. This is easy. I can do this. I can do it. Before I couldn't manage my whole life in the past and the future. 6 hours, bring it on. I can do 16 hours so that's my greatest hack, is keeping my day down to a 16-hour day and then knocking it an hour off every time.
Yeah, it is time for the magic moment. So folks who are here in chat, you know what that means. We're getting close to wrapping up. So if you have any questions for Richard, feel free to pop them into the chat and we'll make sure to get to them. But Richard, if you could wave a magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception surrounding mental illness, disabilities, or talking about mental health, what would it be?
Well, okay, here's it. Our feelings and our emotions are not mental disorders. They're God-given instincts that in the face of danger, real or imaginary, you're meant to take action. So anytime you feel anxious or stressed or depressed or angry or sad or lonely or any feeling at all, take some form of action. Fight, flight, or freeze. So flight, run away. Leave the house, leave the school, leave the classroom, run away. Get out of there. Just run away. Trust your instincts. They're your God-given instincts. Your feelings are a friend. You trust your anxiety. You run away. If you can't run away, you hide in the wardrobe, hide under the bed, hide in the bed, hide in the garden, hide in the kitchen, hide in the room. Trust your instincts and run away or hide. And if you can fight, ask for help. Ask someone for help, seek a solution, ask someone to hold your hand or stay with you if the danger pass. Report the person, place, or thing. Don't keep it a secret. The way abuse stays alive is if we keep it a secret. So if someone's abused you, you tell somebody, tell the police, tell the teacher, priest, your parents, whoever it is, tell somebody this is happening in your life. Stand up for yourself, say no, just say no. That kind of phrase is wonderful. Take action. And the third one is to freeze. And the greatest coping skill we have is it takes no energy. So to disassociate is not a mental disorder. Disassociation is the very best coping skill. So if you're a child and you're in a home where you're fighting and you can't run away and try and fight, they don't listen to you, just shut down mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, curl up into a ball and disassociate. And when all the hubbub breaks down and your dad leaves the house and it's all peaceful again, come back into the space and be alive. Dissociation is not a mental disorder. It's a best coping skill. It's your response. We're given 3 responses: fight, flight, and freeze. They're all perfect. They're not broken. You allow yourself to freeze, disassociate, hide in the bed, sleep, stay in bed, don't get out of bed. You can stay in bed that's okay. That's freezing. You can shut down emotion. You can disassociate. They are healthy coping skills. They're not mental disorders. As soon as we can teach children, especially, that the feelings and emotions and the fight, flight, and freeze are the best response, they're laughing. And the one response that we don't talk about is acceptance. If you can go from living life in life's terms to living life in God's terms, to practice that I am in any moment, to give him your troubles at night time, to know you don't have to join any religion, but allow God into your life, everything will change, because now you're living life on God. When you live life in God's terms, he will send 10,000 angels down. That's it.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for that. I don't see any additional questions, but folks, if you have anything you want to say, feel free to pop it in. Richard, I'm going to post your links one more time, all these to Facebook and LinkedIn, to the books that you've written. If there's anything that you want to talk about, I will just give you the mic for a little bit and let you chat while I go ahead and post these links for everybody one more time so they can find you.
Guys, thank you very much for having me. Really, really great being here. My first live stream show I've never done before. It's really nice to be here with an audience. And thank you for those who participated and your questions and your comments. They really were wonderful. We have to keep this very simple. I love that comment about keep it stupid, okay? Keep this very simple. You're allowed to have a relationship with God without joining any, okay? And don't tell anybody about it. This is you. If you have a relationship with a boy or a girl, and tell them. Well, in the same way, have a relationship with God. Don't tell anyone you're having this relationship. Keep it personal between you and them. Climb into your wardrobe, close the door in the wardrobe. If you can fit into it, I'm too big to fit. Go somewhere into nature. Go somewhere where you won't be disturbed. And the burning the letter is wonderful. They talk about a burnt offering. You take a page, write out everything on the page, and you push down the toilet. And that takes it out of your psyche environment for the amount of time you've declared you want it. So 8 hours. And you can burn pages all day long. So it's a really great tool you can use without anyone's permission. You don't have to get permission. Just do this and it works. Use the I am. I am happy, joyous, and free. Just repeat that. Again, not my permission or MommaFoxFire's permission or your parents' permission. You're just doing something. This is about self-care, taking care of you. You're the most important person in your life. God has a plan, a purpose for you, and you can't achieve that if you're not here. So you want to allow yourself to have God in your life, have your friends in your life. Maybe someday you can have your parents in your life. There's some way you can have. One last thing I want to say is we all have our tribes. It's a very good chance the family you grew up in, there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with you. Just God put you in that tribe so that you would learn your experiences to help others. But one day you'll leave that tribe and you'll go and find a tribe. So right now we have all this wokeism and where kids now are different genders or different whatever, and they don't fit with their families. But it's just case that you're no longer a fit. That they're perfectly okay for their beliefs and who they are, but you're okay for your beliefs and who you are. And when you find your family, your tribe of people who think like you feel like you've come home. And when your family are with their family, that's okay. We live and let live. We don't try and convert people who aren't us into our thinking, and we don't allow other people who aren't us into their thinking. We find a way of living in our tribe, and they live, and that's okay. So I'm an old-fashioned guy. I'm a Christian and believe in God and family, and I love that. I've no desire to anywhere else that's alien or it is in conflict with them, and that's okay. That's who I am. I allow myself to be who I am and to embrace my life and to live my. And once I'm not harming anybody else, okay. And likewise, if any of you guys who are not fitting into society, find your tribe. And when you find your tribe, and you can have God in your tribe, even though it seems like you may not be able to have a religion in your tribe, you may not be able to have a denomination, a man-made religion or a church in your tribe, but you can have God in your tribe. God fits in everywhere, with everybody, okay? Again, to go back to the Bible, Jesus didn't mix with those who were converted. He went who didn't fit in. If there was transgenderism back then, he would have spent his time with transgender people. He fitted in with everyone who didn't fit in. The lepers, and he spent his time in the company of lepers and thieves and anyone who's think of robbery. He would spend his time with those who did this. So no, you're allowed to have God in your without conforming to community or to religious standards or denominational standards. This is your gift to you. It's to allow God to be in your life. He wants to be. Let him be a part of your life. Your life will transform.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. Bite Marks, I just want to say this has been a fascinating conversation, and I absolutely agree. I think that this has been a really great time. So thank you for spending your time with us this evening and for just coming on here and sharing your views and talking through all of this with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. God bless you all. I hope you're all safe and well.
So that was Richard Tierney. If you're sitting with this right now and thinking, okay, but that's not how I operate, or I'm not sure I buy all of that, that's completely valid. Richard's framework won't resonate with everyone, and it doesn't have to. I think there are a few things from our conversation that apply regardless of whether you're spiritual, religious, skeptical, or somewhere in between. The first one is this idea of separating who you are today from what happened to you in the past. Whether you use Richard's visualization technique or not, that distinction matters. You can acknowledge what happened without letting it define your entire existence. You can tell your story without being your story. That's not about forgetting or minimizing. It's about reclaiming space in your life for who you actually are right now. The second thing is the 3 8-hour framework. Even if you don't frame it spiritually, the basic logic holds. If your entire life depends on one job or one relationship or one thing going right, you're vulnerable. When that inevitably gets disrupted, you'll fall apart completely. But if you've built a life with multiple sources of meaning, connection, activity, you have something to land on. That's just practical resilience. And the third thing is permission. Richard kept saying, you don't need anyone's permission to do this work. You don't need a therapist's approval. You don't need your family's blessing. You don't need a church's stamp. You can work on yourself. You can build your own spiritual practice. You can decide what healing looks like for you. That's worth sitting with. I also want to be honest about something. Richard's approach operates in a different lane than conventional mental health treatment. If you're dealing with clinical depression, bipolar disorder, psychosis, or anything that significantly impairs your functioning, you need to be working with a qualified professional. His method is not a replacement for that. It might be something you explore alongside it, but please don't use this episode as a reason to skip therapy or stop medication. Your brain chemistry is real, and both things can be true. What we're really talking about here is the gap between symptom management and healing. Whether that gap gets closed through spirituality, therapy, community, time, or some combination of all of it is a personal question, but it's worth asking and exploring. If this conversation sparked something for you or made you think differently about your own healing, I'd love to hear about it. You can find me as MommaFoxFire on social media. Please leave a review wherever you're listening right now, wherever you get your podcasts, or just send me a message also. The reviews, the comments, the shares, those are what actually matter to all of the algorithms on all of the apps. They help other people find this show, and they help folks who need to hear this conversation hear it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I've got more episodes coming that dig into hard stuff: grief, purpose, what happens when your life doesn't look like you thought it would, how to actually move forward when you're stuck, and so much more. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for listening to the hard conversations. And remember, even tacos fall apart sometimes. That doesn't mean they're ruined. It just means you get to eat it a little differently. I'm MommaFoxFire, and I'll see you in the next episode.